Today is the 29th of June, so we've got some fresh deals on the Steam front page in the Steam summer sale, which of course is going to end on July the 4th. We've got a fair few games to discuss today, with some games that I'm unfamiliar with as always, so I'm not going to go too much into detail on the ones I don't know, but I will tell you what I can, and also go through the prices and everything of all the ones, and go for some recommendations. So, let's begin with a game that I've heard an awful lot about, but have yet to actually play. And that is none other than Hyperlight Drifter. Now, the reduction on this isn't super great. It is only 20% off, making it £11.99. But it does have very positive reviews. Recently is overwhelmingly positive, so I guess they improved something recently, but overall is very positive. There's even a soundtrack edition as well for a little bit more money. Or of course you can just buy it separately. The graphic style, I must say, is really, really pretty. It is described as an RPG and has been described by some people as Zelda meets Dark Souls, which is a very resounding recommendation. I must say that I am quite tempted by this by myself just by looking at the screenshots. This looks like a gorgeous game with an interesting world just looking at the reviews. Again, I haven't played this one, so I'm not going to talk too much on it, but it does look incredible. Moving on from the unfamiliar to the very, very familiar, and that is indeed Portal 2, which has been on sale approximately 1 billion times. It is 75% off, making it £3.74, or you can get yourself a 2-pack for £6.24, again 75% off. There's also the Final Hours, which is a digital book, which is £1.59. That's not actually reduced, but hey, it's basically free ordinarily. And of course there's a bunch of bundles as well, including the Portal bundle, which is 83% off, making it £3.84. I don't think this game needs much of a description. Portal is, quite rightfully so, a legendary game in its own right. Of course, the original Portal was a classic puzzler with a, at the time, surprisingly deep story and character to it. Many people at the time when it first came out obviously played it just expecting a short, puzzle game, and that was it. And obviously we got surprised by the story and the characters and just how charming the game actually was. Portal 2 in many ways wasn't as good, but it did actually add a lot of sort of more content to things, more puzzles and that sort of thing. So while it doesn't quite match up to its predecessor, it's still a damn good game and you can't really go wrong. Next up, staying on the topic of the familiar, is the Total War franchise. Now, these are a legendary set of games for a very, very good reason. There is an insane amount of work put into them, even though I would recommend that you never buy one on launch because they're notoriously buggy when they first came out. But, of course, a lot of these games have been out for a long time, sometimes years and years and years. So, yeah, I think you're safe with some of these. Some of them are better than others, of course, and I'd say check out each one individually if you're at all interested. I myself have only ever played Medieval 2 Total War and Shogun Total War, so, yeah. Don't ask me for opinions on Shogun 2 or Rome 2 because I don't have the time for these types of games, unfortunately. As much as I do enjoy Total War, I have not had time to play one in a long time. So let's get on with the blathering, shall we, and just discuss the prices. Now, Medieval 2 Total War, speaking of it, is basically free. It is 75% off, making it £3.74. Same price again for Total War as well as Napoleon Total War. Shogun 2 is a bit more expensive, of course, a bit more recent at £6.24. Again, 75% off. Rome 2 Emperor Edition is £7.50. And Shogun 2 Fall of the Samurai is £6.24. And Total War Attila is the most expensive here at £7.49. So, again, look at the reviews of each individual one. Total War Attila is, again, the most recent, come out in 2015. So, make sure you check out the reviews and everything like that for each one that you're interested in. Looking at the reviews for Attila, it is recently mostly positive. Overall, it's mixed. I'm going to guess that's because when it came out, it was broke as fuck, because these games usually are. But now it's actually been fixed. So, again, don't take my word from it. That's just judging from what I'm seeing here on Steam. Next up on the chopping block is none other than Dragon Ball Xenoverse. This is a pretty nice reduction actually, given that this is a full price title at $39.99, but today on sale it is 75% off, making it £9.99, or you can get the bundle edition where you get a load of packs as well as of course the main game for £14.99, or the DLC itself is actually not reduced, so it's £8 each for the DLC, so if you're looking at the DLC it's actually a bit of a steal there. Or you've just got the Season Pass for 75% off, making it £4.99. So if you own the main game, probably best to pick up the Season Pass if you're after the DLC, or just the main game is also pretty nicely reduced as well. This one has very positive reviews across the board, and well, it's Dragon Ball. A friend of mine has been playing this, and he's a big Dragon Ball fan, and he actually recommends it heartily, so there you go. Next up is an early access game which by this point has probably made more money than God, and it is none other than Ark Survival Evolved. Now this is naturally an early access game, it's still an early access, but it is 45% off at £12.64, so you've been looking to see what all the fuss is about, then perhaps this reduced price may tempt you into this survival game, but with dinosaurs. Doesn't need much of an introduction, as it's been all over YouTube and Twitch for months. You craft items, grow crops, build shelters, survive against dinosaurs, you can tame them, breed them, all sorts of shenanigans, not to mention tons and tons and tons of mods to just increase that replayability. Haven't played this one myself, I don't do early access, I wait for games to be finished, but this does look rather interesting. Survival games like this, not really my bag, I prefer single player most of the time, but I have heard nothing but good things about this game, so if you're into survival and you are kind of umming and ahhing over Ark, then perhaps this reduced price may tempt you into the fray. Next up is another early access game, and it is none other than Black Mesa, which is, of course, as you probably know, a highly acclaimed fan-made recreation of Half-Life. It is pretty damn cheap at 60% off, making it £5.99. Now, a bit of a disclaimer, they are still working on Zen, that isn't yet included, but they do have everything up until then, which is hence why it's still in early access. I know Paul has played this and it's a ton of fun. It is a pretty sort of faithful recreation with some improvements, well, of course, you know, complete graphical overhaul and everything. It does look pretty damn nice, and if you wanted to relive Half-Life but in better graphics, then perhaps this might be the game for you. Can't recall if I said, to be honest, because I've got memory like a sieve, so it's 60% off, making it $5.99. Next upon our list is none other than XCOM 2. We have all sorts of offers here for the insanely successful sequel to XCOM Enemy Unknown, which of course is set 20 years after the original and brings all sorts of improvements to the table. Some welcome, some not, judging from what I've heard from the community. But even if some of the changes are a little bit niggling, this overall is a fantastic game, and it's a pretty nice reduction at 40% off, making it £20.99, or you can get it plus the Steam controller if you really want for £44.98, and the Reinforcement Pack DLC, and only that DLC, which is a bit strange, is reduced to 33% off, making it £10.71. Now this is still fairly expensive for a Steam sale game. Obviously £20 can get you a lot on the Steam sale if you're planning your sort of purchases correctly, but this is a fantastic game that hasn't really been out all that long. It came out in February, so perhaps if the full price was a bit too steep for you, this might be worth your consideration. Next up is a game that seems to be pretty damn mixed recently and overall, and it is none other than Elite Dangerous. And it is pretty much you fly around in a spaceship, you pick up, you know, loot in space, you can fight people, you can be a pirate, or you can, you know, try and obey the law, you know, you can trade, all sorts of shenanigans going on. As I said, it does have mixed reviews both recently and overall, so if you're tempted by this one, as it is still fairly expensive at 33% off, making it £13.39, I suggest you look at gameplay reviews, etc., to get a feel for why this game is being rated mixed. It's not a game I've played. It's definitely a game I'd love to play, but I just do not have the time for such a huge time sink. It is very much an open world, you know, the whole galaxy to explore. It's an absolutely huge game with all sorts of content involved in it. It looks promising for what I've seen, but there's got to be a reason for those reviews, and if space things are your bag, then perhaps check out the reviews before putting your money down. Next up is a game that looks balmy as all balls, and it is none other than Danganronpa Trigger Happy Havoc. This is a fairly decent reduction, not an amazing reduction, but decent. It is 33% off, making it £15.40, and it is sort of basically described as Ace Attorney meets Battle Royale meets Acid. And it's basically a game about solving a murder that was committed by one of your friends. You've got to find out who the killer is, and it's obviously got visual novel elements, you know, well-written characters, and very weird sort of visual design. If you're after an interesting and unique experience, then I can't even speak today, Danganronpa is definitely something that's up to, you know, something that worth your time. It's also got some weird mechanics, you know, your weapons of words, and obviously it's got the sort of weird visual novel-esque elements and that sort of thing, so it's definitely got a sort of brand of Japanese weirdness. But if that sounds okay to you, then have at it, because this is actually a decent price for this game. Again, expensive for the Steam sale, but perhaps wait a little longer and go down a bit more in future sales, as it's not a hefty reduction, but still not bad. Next up is Plague Inc. Evolved. And this is a pretty nice reduction at 40% off, making it £7.19, or you can get the soundtrack at 40% off, making it £2.39. This is basically a sort of strategy game, but instead of like, hey, I'm going to conquer countries and stuff, you basically bring about the end of human history by evolving a deadly global plague while adapting against everything humanity is doing to basically eradicate it. It is a strategy game with a twist, and a very unique and compelling twist as well, judging by the reviews. This is a game that's always tempted me, and it looks like a massive time sink, but I might buy it anyway because this is a really nice price, and this sounds like a really interesting and unique twist on the whole strategy formula, which of course is usually about conquering and armies and that sort of thing. This is a really cool idea based upon that formula. Here's another game that's been on sale 1 million times, and that is the Elder Scrolls franchise. Needs no introductions. Let's just go through the prices. We have Elder Scrolls 5 Skyrim, $4.99, 50% off. Far from the cheapest I've seen that game. That has been way down compared to now. So if you haven't played this game somehow, I wouldn't at that price. It is going to go cheaper unless you really want a massive time sink. We've got ESO also 50% off at $14.99. I haven't played this MMO myself. I've heard mixed things. It's doing well for itself. It didn't really set the world on fire, but it is apparently doing, decent enough. Where of course they're continuing to update it with DLC and stuff. We also have Oblivion, which is silly expensive given how old this game is, at 40% off, making it $8.99, and Morrowind is about $7.79. I mean, I wouldn't get any of these for these prices, to be quite frank. Skyrim, it's been on sale multiple times, cheaper than this. Same for Oblivion and same for Morrowind. I'm not sure why they're all so expensive. Maybe because we just had the reveal of the remaster. I don't know. I mean, obviously, they're all great games, but they have been cheaper than this. I'm sure you'll own them and played them millions of times anyway. Once again, moving from the familiar to the unknown, we go swiftly on to Crusader Kings 2. This is another grand strategy and does have very positive reviews. It is a fairly nice reduction of 75% off, making it £7.49. You also again have the grand strategy collection with this Europa Universalis 4, Hearts of Iron 3 and Victoria 2 for $18.99, as well as a huge Kings 2 collection which has a crazy amount of content for £30.74. There's also the DLC also reduced at 25% each, apart from the Viking Metal DLC, which is basically free anyway at £1.99. So if you're after some grand strategy, then this seems to be a fairly safe bet. This, of course, did come out in 2012, so the graphics have not aged particularly well, but still, it is a classic grand strategy for a reason. And staying on the strategy theme, we have Galactic Civilizations 3. This is a fairly nice reduction again at 66% off, making it £10.19. You also have the Stardock bundle, which has a bunch of stuff in it for 50% off, making it £37.99, usually worth £76. Kind of gives you an idea of the value here. And only the Mercenaries expansion DLC is reduced at 50% off, making it £7.49. This is touted as the largest strategy sandbox ever made. You basically start with a single planet and then you expand through diplomacy, trade, and military conquest, giving you sort of all sorts of options, and is basically a 4x strategy game, which even can be played in single player or multiplayer. So while it's not a strategy in the same way that Crusader Kings is, it does have elements, but instead it is indeed a 4x, and does seem to be perceived pretty well looking at reviews and that sort of thing, and must say it does look very pretty indeed, judging from the screenshots. Next up is a game which speaks for itself, which is Trackmania Turbo. Not a great reduction here, to be honest, at 25% off, making it $22.49. It is $29.99 full price. It is touted as a sort of arcade racing game where everything's about reaching the perfect racing time. It's got 200 tracks, and you've also got offline split screen as well as online multiplayer as you'd expect. However, it does have mixed reviews both recently and overall, and was only released back in March, so perhaps be wary on this one. Check out gameplay reviews, that sort of thing, as it doesn't seem to have been received amazingly well. A lot of people, judging from the reviews on Steam, seem to be saying that, look, this is not a good Trackmania game. There are other better Trackmania games out there. Do not get this one. So again, do tread warily here with Trackmania Turbo. And let's finish up on a bit of a bad note, shall we, with YouTuber's Life. I say a bad note, I haven't played it. I am judging it purely on the screenshots and descriptions, and it doesn't sound good as a game, to be honest. It's basically a tycoon game where you basically try and become the best video blogger, edit videos, expand your fans, that sort of thing. It is, a tycoon game about YouTubers, essentially. It is still in early access, but does seem to have very positive reviews, so maybe I'm being all cynical and jaded for no reason. It actually is a fun game. Again, I haven't played it, Maybe I shouldn't judge things on their appearance, but I can't really help it when something is called YouTuber's Life. It is only a 15% off at £9.34, so not that great a reduction here. If you're unsure, I wouldn't get it at this price. Look at some gameplay and judge for yourself. This still is an early access, so perhaps if you're interested in the concept, as it does sound, I guess it could be fun, then wait till it's actually finished and that sort of thing, and judge from there. So that's it for the main deals, but I'm going to go through some more on the main page very quickly, and then I'm going to go through my recommendations for today. And we actually have a lot of better games in the sort of second section, but still. We got Titan Souls for £2.74. This is basically Shadow of the Colossus meets Dark Souls. It is pretty damn cool. It is 75% off, making it £2.74. You have Hacknet at £3.49. Keep Talking and Nobody Explodes at £7.25. Game of Thrones, the series, is £5.74. I'm guessing that's the first episode, to be honest. Might and Magic franchise is from 50 to 63% off. Hitman is 50 to 75% off. Fragmented is £7.49. Grim Fandango Remastered is £2.74. And the Space Emperor Edition is £4.59. Trine 3 is £3.99. Devil May Cry franchise is 40 to 75% off. Talisman, the Horus Heresy is £7.59. Axiom Verge is £8.99. And Crypt of the Necrodancer is £2.74. So there you go, those are the front page games for today. Out of all the games on sale, what would I personally recommend? To be honest, out of these, I would say the best picks are probably going to be Titan Souls, Grim Fandango Remastered, and the Devil May Cry franchise. From the main games, I mean, you've played a lot of the best ones a lot, like Portal 2 and XCOM 2, for example. I would say Hyper Light Drifter, but again, I haven't played it. I'm just judging purely from its aesthetics, so I don't really want to recommend something I haven't played, but it does look cool. But yeah, out of the ones I actually have played, I would say Grim Fandango Remastered, as well as Titan Souls. So there you go, those are the deals for the Steam sale today. Sorry for my mush mouth, I don't know why I had so much trouble tripping in my words today, just one of those days I guess. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.